Rowing holds great importance in Washington, encompassing both its rich history and its present-day cultural significance. Specifically, the University of Washington's rowing program has achieved national and international acclaim through the Husky Crew's success and even Olympic triumphs. Washington's long-standing tradition of rowing dates back to the late 19th century. The University of Washington campus was less than 10 years old when the first students took water to row. Washington had not established rowing as a sport before this because of lack of funding, a small enrollment, and no college competition. No other college on the Pacific Coast had a rowing program yet. On December 15, 1899, the University of Washington students accepted a proposal from E.F. Blaine, a Seattle lawyer and developer, to raise money to construct a rowing shell for the university. Blaine guaranteed funds if the students would agree to establish a rowing program at the university. Within a year, enough money was raised and support gathered to build 2 four-oared rowing gigs, a boathouse, and a dock and a float for the boats. The University of Washington did not row its first race against another college until the spring of 1903.
In 1985, the University of Washington moved from downtown Seattle to a campus between Lake Union and Lake Washington, a location ideal for rowing. The location of the Montlake Cut created a perfect scene for rowing to flourish. From the very beginning, Seattle embraced rowing. The new campus made a perfect, picturesque backdrop for rowing that attracted rowers and rower enthusiasts. The University of Washington soon became the dominant rowing team on the Pacific Coast, and within a short time, in the nation. Importantly, as part of the new identity, 1903 also marked the inaugural Junior Day. Junior Day was a university-wide program that included rowing, canoeing, and other aquatic sports. Both men and women competed in the sports events, and at times they competed together in mixed events.
An important factor was the frontier spirit of Washington. Washington was not as influenced by East Coast norms or culture. Their culture was their own, and it was born out of a closeness to nature, many natural resources, and a location hundreds of miles from the next major town or urban center. Since 1901, more than 14,000 men and women have struck an oar on the behalf of the University of Washington, whose rowing program is the most successful athletic enterprise in Washington state history. 1903 was the first year of documented women's rowing in Washington. Until 1907, the men rowed in fours until they acquired their first eights from Cornell. The women still trained in fours. The women dressed moderately in long-sleeve blouses and wide pants gathered at the knee, called bloomers. Rowing, popularized in the early 20th century by Ivy League schools, mattered, and winning on a national level could make a city matter.
Hiram Conybeare, whom some recognize as the founding father of Husky Crew, started a spectacular coaching career in 1907. Conybeare didn't have much knowledge of rowing when he was first hired, but after extensive experiment and studying, he invented the distinctive Washington stroke that helped with the crew's future success and revolutionized rowing in the early 20th century. The Conybeare stroke was born and quickly accepted nationwide. His coaching ability resulted in Washington oarsmen rowing to a third-place finish at Poughkeepsie, New York in 1917 against the country's fastest crews. In the summer of 1936, 9 working-class young men from the University of Washington took the rowing world and the nation by storm. The Olympics that year were to be held in Berlin, hosted by Nazi Germany under the regime of Adolf Hitler. The competition aimed to showcase Nazi propaganda and Aryan supremacy with German victories. These sons of loggers, shipyard workers, and farmers overcame tremendous hardships, including financial difficulties, limited resources, and strong competition from other rowing programs, to beat not only the Ivy League teams of the East Coast, but also Adolf Hitler's elite German rowers. The competition was dominated by the hosts, Germany, who medaled in every event and took 5 of 7 gold medals. But in the very last race, the underdog Washington team narrowly beat out Italy and Germany, taking the gold. At a time when tensions were rising in Europe, the American team's victory served as a symbol of American strength. The loss of the German team was a blow to Hitler's ideals of Aryan supremacy, and the American victory was seen as a powerful statement against the prejudice propagated by the Nazis. The victory has had a lasting impact on Washington rowing and the sport as a whole. It inspired generations of rowers to strive for excellence, further raising the profile of the University of Washington's rowing program.
Published in 2013, the New York Times best-selling novel, The Boys in the Boat, shows just how significant the 1936 Washington team's victory was.
It tells the inspiring story of the 9 American rowers on their epic quest for gold.
Okay, so how was your grandfather connected to UW rowing?
So my grandfather was a lightweight rower in 1937. I don't know what year he graduated exactly, but I am imagining he rowed with a lot of people in the Boys in the Boat who were the heavyweight rower teams. He was on the lightweight rowing team during the same time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And how was his experience just like being on the team?
Yeah, I don't know much about his experience because he died in World War II. So right after his time at the University of Washington, he was in the military, and he actually died in Saipan. So, but I know that he has a lot of I still have his jersey, his rowing jersey from University of Washington, and he had a lot of friends and a lot of camaraderie, and every time I go through the cut, I always think about him rowing through that area and what that would have been like as he was practicing. In the military, he was highly looked upon. He actually got a Silver Star medal from World War II for saving a number of his peers and the people in his commanding group. So I think probably working as a team rowing was part of that.
Yeah, I think that's like one of the biggest things as a community of it.
Yeah.
And so I feel like that you did kind of answer that there, but just like what effect did the victory have on like the UW rowers and like them as a team?
Yeah, I don't know. It's hard to think back at that time. My grandfather ended up meeting my grandmother. He was going to school at University of Washington, and she graduated from Roosevelt High School. So they met each other here in Seattle, and then they had one child, which was my mom, and he passed before my mother had even met him, so she was less than a year when he passed, and he was in the military. But I know that rowing, my grandmother doesn't talk about it very much because she was really sad, and it was really hard for her to talk about that loss. But I just know from having all the memorabilia from that, that it was a big deal of his life. And I didn't know till later even that he rowed, and I rowed at Western for a little while.
Wow.
And then somebody just happened to tell me that my grandfather also rowed, which was kind of a funny story.
Yeah.
The success of these Washington rowers contributed greatly to Washington's reputation as a rowing powerhouse and brought pride to Washington residents. The victory is a significant part of Washington sports history. UW coaches and crews were celebrated with Seahawks-like confetti-filled parades down 2nd Avenue. Varsity rowers waved to fans while riding a flower-draped logging truck. The victorious Olympians became national heroes, instilling a sense of pride in Washingtonians.
The University of Washington rowing program has only expanded since then, continuing to carry on this legacy of success.
Rowing serves as a unifying force in Washington, fostering a sense of community and pride. Local rowing clubs, regattas, and rowing events bring together athletes, enthusiasts, and families,